I hope that people listening who have friends or even doctors who still subscribe to calories in, calories out will take this episode, cut and paste the URL, and send it to that friend, because this is absolute proof. You've got a woman who's training for an Ironman, eating 1,200 calories a day, and gained 60 pounds. I mean, if that doesn't make the case for it, I just can't even comprehend. Yeah. Anna, what were doctors telling you at this point?
So I went to an internist thinking that they would run some tests and they would discover my thyroid's off or something. Without running one single test, he just told me, well, Anna, life's hard and you just have to buck up. Yeah, learn to buck up, because life is just hard.
This is Fat Science, a podcast dedicated to the science of why we get fat. No diets, no agendas, just science that makes you feel better. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional medical advice.
I'm Dr. Emily Cooper. I've been treating patients with metabolic issues for over 25 years. I'm on a mission to raise awareness about metabolic dysfunction and why diets don't work.
Hi, I'm Andrea Taylor. I've been fat, very fat, chubby, morbidly obese, and done almost every diet ever invented. They all worked until they didn't. I've known Dr. Cooper forever, but when I became her patient and we learned metabolism was the real problem, wow, everything changed, and I've never been healthier.
And I'm Mark Wright. It's time for Fat Science.
Wait, does this podcast make me look fat?
Welcome to Fat Science. I'm Mark Wright, along with Andrea Taylor and Dr. Emily Cooper. It's great to see you two.
Hi there.
Hello.
On the show today, the metabolic struggles of an Ironwoman. Isn't that a great title?
Yes.
When we talk about metabolic health, I think we often assume that this isn't something that elite athletes would struggle with, would deal with. I mean, they're in amazing shape. Their bodies are finely tuned machines. How could their metabolisms possibly get messed up? But they can. So, Dr. Cooper, I'd love to start with you. We're going to talk with one of your patients, Anna, and she has really struggled with her metabolic health, even though she was an extreme athlete, right?
That's right. Yep. I think too often we think of people who are athletes that just must be healthy, must have the best metabolisms, and that's just not necessarily the case. And sometimes even what you'll learn from Anna is sometimes the athleticism itself and the athletic activity can actually hamper the metabolic function as well.
Well, let's welcome Anna. It's great to have you on the show. And it warmed my spirit when you said you're a fan of the Fat Science podcast. Welcome, Anna. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's great to be here.
So, Anna, let's talk about metabolic dysfunction. Elite athletes, they're not the first people that come to mind when we think of metabolic syndrome or dysfunction. Take us back in your life when you first noticed that something wasn't right with your metabolism.
I would say it happened while I was training for Ironman. I had lost a bunch of weight. I had started doing marathons and half marathons to be specific. And then I wanted to move into marathons, but my doctor was afraid of me moving into marathons because I had been so heavy the majority of my life. He thought maybe something was going to go wrong with my knees. So he wanted me to start a new sport that would be multidisciplined so that I would spread my exercising across different things. And he thought triathlon would be the great way to go. And I didn't know much about triathlons, but I learned quickly, starting with the sprint triathlons and then working my way up to the Olympic distance. It wasn't long and I wanted to do an Ironman. And so I got a coach, got all the gear, and I joined the camps and I started training for the Ironman. And I got to tell you, during the Ironman training, they discussed nutrition a lot, because you have to keep yourself fed and fueled throughout the race. If you think about it, the average non-pro Ironman athlete, it's going to take them somewhere between 12 and 13 hours to complete. And you can't name many things that you do 12, 13 hours at a time. You don't even sleep that many hours at a time. Well, not many people. Anyway.
Yeah. Anna, break down the Ironman competition. Obviously, I've not done an Ironman. How long are the distances and what are the activities?
The swim is a 2.1 mile swim. And then the bike is 100 some odd miles. And then you come in
What?
and then you get on your running gear and you go for a marathon, a 26.2
Oh,
marathon. So
jeez.
it's a lot. So to train for an Ironman, you have to do a lot of intensive workouts. You have to do consistent workouts because you're trying to train your body. You're trying to build that blood volume to support yourself throughout this event. And anyway, so as I was training, people talk about gear and like, oh, this bike is lighter than that bike, so you can go faster and all of that. And pretty soon, it wasn't long. And I was gaining weight while I was training for Ironman. And keep in mind, I was working out 20 hours a week. It was like a part-time job doing the workouts, and then I had my regular job. So I was working out all the time. I would start in the morning and with a swim and a run, and then go to work. And then after work, I would do another run. And then on the weekends, it was long bike rides. And I thought I was feeling myself well. Turns out I wasn't really. And my body just kind of rebelled and gave up. And I gained probably what, Dr. Cooper, about 10, 20 pounds. I gained 20 pounds before I even got into my first Ironman. I managed to complete my first Ironman, but they say once you do an Ironman, you might as well do two because you put all this effort in. Why just do one? You should just do two. And so as I was training into my second one, I was gaining even more weight. And honestly, it was during the second Ironman that my body gave up in the middle of the bike ride. And I didn't make the cutoff time for the run. They have cutoff times because they figure if you're not into the run by 5 p.m., there's no way you're going to get the marathon done by midnight. So they don't let you go on the run course. And I was stopped at my second Ironman from going on the run course.
So you just hit a wall? Is that what
To the
happened?
wall. Yeah. My
Yeah.
body just didn't want to move anymore. Yeah.
I was going to say, and what were you eating every day to fuel all this exercise? Because that, to me, I'm like, Iron Man, I basically can iron like 5 shirts and I'm tired. So I don't know what the hell this is all about. I didn't realize it was 100 miles, the bike part.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I thought it was like maybe 25 miles on the bike.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought, and I didn't realize it was a full marathon either. I thought
Yeah.
it was like a half marathon. I had no idea. I seriously, the 100 miles thing is, I'm still not over that. But like, what do you eat during the day? And then do you eat like
Yeah.
while you're on the bike? What do you do with that?
Yeah, you have to eat while you're doing the Ironman. But during the training and all that, I was eating at most 1,200 calories a day because,
Oh my God.
well, I wanted to eat more, but because the weight was coming on, I was doing the calorie in, calorie out thing.
Mm,
And so 1,200
right.
calories and I'm gaining weight, my mind is doing the calculation of I can't pour more exercise in. I've got to cut back the calories. And so
Look,
I,
we've all been indoctrinated on that. We
yeah.
can't, it's years and
So,
years and years. You
yeah.
can't get rid of it. It's even when you know,
Yes.
it's very hard to get rid of.
It was very counterintuitive to think that I needed to eat more. It just
Mm,
didn't register in my mind. It wasn't until I met Dr. Cooper that I finally woke up and realized it wasn't adding up and I was doing the wrong things. And I think
right.
Dr. Cooper, my first numbers that you saw from me were just horrible.
Yeah.
I didn't have much of that acid that you need to get your muscles to move. I barely had any left. I had used up everything my body could give. Yeah, so I was eating 1,200, some days 900 because I figured, because there's some days that you're off resting. It's called resting, where it's light workouts. And so I would then match my calories to that because I didn't want to overeat or in my off days. So yeah. But
Anna,
then
give us an idea. How old were you at the time
I
when
was
you were doing all this?
I was in my 40s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in my
Well, that's
Wow.
super ambitious. And Dr. Cooper, I'd love for you to put the 1,200 calories into context. I think I remember
Right.
hearing Michael Phelps, the famous swimmer, talk about during his training, I can't remember the exact numbers, but something like 8 to 12,000 calories a day he sometimes consumed.
Yeah. It's
Right.
well,
So was she starving? Was she basically starving?
oh yeah, absolutely. It's just so crazy, the story. But I think all in all, I think you said, Anna, that you gained like 60 pounds while you're doing that training during
In
that
the end,
period.
yes.
And,
In the end,
yeah, while consuming that 1,200 and training 20 hours a week and just running out of steam. And so when you think about the calorie demand, there's the resting expenditure that we need without any workouts, which would have been probably close to like 2,000 calories a day just for not even doing the workouts. Then you start introducing these workouts. If you're training 20 hours a week, that's, easily 10,000 calories a week more that you have to add in to that baseline. So, or that's what your body is needs to expend in order to do that. So what ends up happening is the whole metabolic system begins to slow down and conserve energy and kind of fight that. And so you can't really stop your body from burning fuel while you're exercising. But if it slows down enough, it can actually stop you like it did, like it stopped Anna. At some point, it just was like, no, we don't have the fuel to do this. But normally we have mechanisms that are kind of just evolutionary to help us like run away from predators and things like that, that allow us to tap into fuel even when we're undernourished while we're exercising. But the speed, like our maximal speed and energy output, it is diminished when we're in that kind of depleted state. So it feels like we're working as hard as we possibly can, but it's actually like creates a false ceiling. The body creates a false ceiling, so you can't go beyond a certain level. And as Anna said, if you have no glycogen in your muscles left, which is the carbohydrate storage, you certainly cannot expend energy at that high end of your output. So you would be going a lot slower as well, which is what happened also where you couldn't make the cutoffs because your speed was reduced because there just wasn't enough fuel. Yeah.
Just wasn't there one.
And then the other compensation that could happen is if you went into that workout and you're underfueled and your body knows it, after the workout, there's a big slowing of your metabolic rate that occurs. So we often think that exercise speeds our metabolism up, but that's only if you're fueled. Like if you're underfueled, then you pay for that after the workout, because while you're exerting yourself, those mechanisms that let us spend fuel while we're exercising, they kick in even if we're not that well fueled to an extent. But afterwards, to compensate, the metabolism, the resting metabolism at rest slows way down, and just prevents you from burning any fuel after. And then a lot of different mechanisms chemically, like biochemically occur that really help facilitate fat store retention and, inability to burn the body fat stores because of this perception of starvation.
I hope that people listening who have friends or even doctors who still subscribe to calories in, calories out will take this episode, cut and paste the URL and send it to that friend, because this is absolute proof. You've got a woman who's training for an Ironman, eating 1,200 calories a day and gained 60 pounds. I mean, if that doesn't make the case for it, I just can't even comprehend. Anna, what were doctors telling you at this point?
Doctors.
Get ready.
Yeah. So I went to a doctor or two and I was overweight and they were of zero help. I was having emotional swings as well along with this, right? Because my body is now just completely screwed up. I'd cry, like not just at Hallmark commercials, but just like I'd be in a meeting at work and suddenly I'm crying about test results or something. It was just ridiculous. And so I went to an internist thinking that they would run some tests and they would discover like my thyroid's off or something. Without running one single test, he just told me, well, Anna, life's hard and you just have to buck up. Yeah, learn to buck up, because life is just hard. And
wow.
Just like, okay, all right, I'll try to buck up. I'll try to try to have that
Wow.
mental
Train,
strength that I
training
need.
20 hours a week and doing
Yeah.
Ironman's not enough of
That wasn't
bucking up.
enough. Yeah. That wasn't enough.
That's just taking it easy, right?
And then my coaches just kept saying, well, Anna, if you just drop 10 pounds, this would be easier for you. Just don't try to drop the whole 30 or 40, just drop 10, and they just send me off to go drop 10 pounds. And I was mixing and matching my percentages of protein and carbohydrates and fats, just trying to find that miracle combination that was going to work. And I never found it. And they even told me, like, once I start doing the long bike rides and training, that I'll slim out because I'm going to be doing these long bike rides. And so that will just naturally slim me out. And I was doing the opposite of slimming out. I was gaining. And it was just very frustrating. And so finally, someone pointed me to Dr. Cooper, the dietitian you had, back then. I went to her first because I didn't want to go to Dr. Cooper first, because I wanted to talk to the dietitian because clearly I'm doing something wrong. I'm eating wrong. I'm doing something wrong. She just had to look at me for like 2 seconds, and she knew, like, she's like, you have to white knuckle it, don't you, to your next meal? And I said, yeah. And she's like, yeah, you need to stop doing that. If you're hungry, you need to just eat. And so that was my first, like, oh. And then she recommended me to Dr. Cooper. And then I had that first conversation with Dr. Cooper. And it was, you got to stop exercising and you got to eat more, which completely blew my mind at that moment. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm already fat. What do you mean eat?
I know.
Don't tell a fat person to eat. That's what I was like telling myself, is like, why are you telling this fat person to eat? Anyway, yeah, it was crazy.
We're all conditioned to blame ourselves for when we're fat or we're like overweight or whatever. It's like, it's always, we ate too much because everyone told us that it was our fault. So we have decades of that into ourselves. So we're like, oh, it must be our fault. We did it wrong.
Exactly.
So we're just mad at ourselves for doing that. So it can't be. And also, a lot of doctors have all told us, it's our fault. So we believe that.
But I mean, even today.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that once you realize, oh my God, it's what's wrong with me inside and it's not my fault, there's so much power that comes with that.
Yes.
And it's so freeing.
Yeah.
And it's all like, even though a lot of the rest of the world is looking at you like, why are you eating that pudding or that ice cream or whatever? And you're like, well, I can, it's fine. It's, it's okay. There's something so freeing in, it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
I can have a little of that. It's not my fault. It's fine.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like I was letting myself down because I was believing that I wasn't disciplined enough, of all things, even though I had disciplined myself.
Says the Ironwoman.
I know. Right. I know. It just sounds crazy, but when your outer self is not reflecting the effort that you've put in, there's this dissidence happening that you can't explain.
You can't accept it.
Yeah.
And you can't accept it. Once you accept it, you can go with it.
Well, and so many physicians, the physicians are listening to the patients, like listening to Anna's story and so many other patients. And I'm sorry to say, but they maybe because they can't get their mind around how this could possibly be adding up because they still are subscribing to the calorie in, calorie out theories and model, they actually are thinking that the patient is what they call, in medical terms, it's called underreporting your food intake and overreporting your exercise. That's a common phrase.
Lying.
Yes, AKA lying. That's a common phrase that we hear in the medical community to explain these kinds of things.
I mean, it's crazy, Dr. Cooper, how physicians will turn the tables on these patients. With Anna, did you look back? I mean, we've seen in almost all of our cases, there's a history that leads us to this moment of meeting Dr. Cooper. Anna, when you were young, did you diet as a teenager, or what was the history of your relationship to food?
Yes. In fact, my mom, right, is the one that started it back in elementary school because I was showing signs of being overweight. So before going to school, she would weigh me and it wasn't going down. And so she would tell me to grow taller because if I would grow taller, then I would match the weight that I was. So I was like, okay,
I'd like to be 7 feet tall. Yeah.
ditto. I'm in. Let's do it. So I couldn't make that happen. So then when that wasn't working, then she signed me up for Weight Watchers. And oddly enough, at Weight Watchers, just during the first 2 weeks is the first week is the intro, you're supposed to lose a quick 2 pounds or something. I gained 3 pounds. And the women there
Oh my God.
accused me of lying. They're like, you didn't stick to this plan. You must have cheated somewhere because you gained weight. And I'm like, I know I did.
Right. You ate the bread. You ate bread.
I ate bread, or I looked at bread, or I didn't follow their plan. I followed the plan. That I was so hurt because I had worked so hard to follow the plan, and it just
Aw.
and I don't mean to diss Weight Watchers. It's just that I had a problem that no one was recognizing,
Mhm.
Right.
and no doctors were helping me to recognize, and they just kept throwing me on. So it went from Weight Watchers to Diet Center to then my mom came up with her own diet, which was eat once a day, and it would be a salad and a hot dog,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, and
Oh.
yeah, that just do that once a day, and then the weight will come off. And it
Did it?
didn't. No,
Did it?
no,
No.
it didn't.
Even on the hot dog diet?
I know.
Oh, I
I
was
was a little
successful.
surprised.
I was successful on the hot dog diet. Yeah, I was
Well,
successful on that. I did the hot
Wow.
dog diet.
I'm
Except
very.
I was allowed 3 hot dogs a day.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it worked for you. Yeah, it just it
Yeah.
did.
See, if you had 3 hot dogs a day, you would have been
Maybe.
so much more successful.
Maybe then it would
And
have worked.
I got buns. I got
Oh,
buns.
Wow.
oh, well, oh, wow. You got the deluxe ones
Did you
because.
get? Yeah, and sauerkraut.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dr. Cooper, hearing Anna, and we've heard Andrea talk about this. This is literally a nightmare for
It
people. isn't it?
is.
I mean, it's literally a nightmare when medical professionals are playing such stupid psychological games with people that we trust, our doctors, and then for that to happen. So, Dr. Cooper, when Anna first came to you, I mean, where do you start to fix something that seems to be so broken when she came to you?
Well, just as Anna said, you've got to start with changing that energy balance and earning back the trust in your body that you're going to be fueled and fuel your body, because Anna's weight defenses are more powerful than anything. I mean, the defenses against, starvation are so strong that what you have to do is prove all the time that you're not going to starve, you have enough food supply, you are going to fuel your body, you're going to eat regularly, you're not going to go and try to expend energy when you're underfueled. So it was really hard. Anna, I'm sure you don't mind because you already said that you were crying at one doctor appointment.
Yeah, I don't mind.
But poor Anna, I think you were crying for like a year. The first year that I saw you, like every appointment. And and you told me that you were crying even at the end of the Ironman when you were doing the Ironman stuff. And so it's just so emotionally taxing, but I think it's the history that started as a child with all the diets and all the focus, even just the focus, like just gaining that weight initially with the Weight Watchers could be just because of the thought that you might deprive your body. Yes, can change those metabolic hormones. And we have proof of that through the science. But, I think that just the years of having your mental state in that mode and your body in a deprived, repeated deprivations really set it up. And so it's really hard to tell, like, what's the original problem, or was there even an original problem, or is it all just this enormous weight defense mechanism in there? But I think also leading into the Ironman, what you were saying is that you had started like kind of another diet type program, a lifestyle program with reducing calories and increasing exercise. And that's when your weight was going off. And then you became so excited about the exercise and getting fit. You really enjoyed it. You found you really enjoyed it. So you wanted to make that part of your lifestyle. And that's when this tipping point occurred, and it would have occurred anyway, because it was just a matter of time, of being on that underfueled diet and starting this exercise program at a milder state. You got away with it a little bit at first, but then you were ramping up the exercise and you didn't really change your food intake. And then you were cutting your food back even, at times. And so that's when the body really learned how to get extremely good at the biologic defenses that help keep your body weight up. And so it was really tough. So knowing where to start is really hard, but we did a full panel, looking at everything we could from the metabolic health perspective, and also just this weight defense mechanisms through these hormone messengers. And we did find a lot of problems. So, very high ghrelin levels. Ghrelin is that hunger hormone from the stomach, extremely high, and then very low leptin. Leptin is that body fat reassuring signal, and, no glycogen in the muscles, and just not good situation.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm still fighting it today.
Yes, still fighting it.
I know that you had some surgery to correct some or make potential corrections in some of the problems that you were having. And did you use any medications to try and correct some of the problems that you were having?
Yeah. So working with Dr. Cooper, God bless her, she was like prescribing everything she could to, to try to get things to shift. My body was very resistant. And so we both came to the conclusion that my ghrelin levels were so high that they were blocking some of the drugs that were trying to be effective. And so we both decided that the vertical sleeve would be the right choice for me, because that would then remove the part of the stomach that was then producing the ghrelin that was causing the majority of my problem at the moment. And so I had to qualify for that surgery. Well, the drugs were working just enough that I was under the 30 BMI.
I think it was 40. It was 40, wasn't it?
Or 40. It had to be 40
yeah,
BMI.
I think it's 40. I think you have to be 40, yeah.
And I had to have sleep apnea, which I did the test and proved that I had sleep apnea, but I didn't have diabetes. Everyone keeps thinking I should have diabetes, and in some ways I think I should too, but I don't. So the insurance required 2 of the 3. I had to be over 40, sleep apnea, diabetes. I had to show 2 of the 3. Well, I had 1 because Dr. Cooper's drugs were keeping me below the 40. And I got so mad. And I think it was in Dr. Cooper's office where I just got so mad. I said, okay, fine. If they want to see 40, I'll show them 40. And I took all my drugs and I threw them in the trash and I stopped taking them. I just let my body just balloon up above 40 BMI and came back to Dr. Cooper okay, I'm over 40
and
now.
It only took like a month, I think.
Only a month.
Oh my God,
Boom.
really?
Yeah. Oh. I was so mad because I guess what I was expecting was that the insurance company would go, oh, you're taking all these drugs to keep under the 40 and you're still not getting anywhere. So we'll cover this and we'll make it happen.
We tried. Yeah.
Don't look to insurance companies for help.
They make you go through so many hoops. Yeah. I went through the hoops.
Yeah. I mean, insurance companies wait till a crisis happens and then they'll cover it. I mean, we've gone
and I had to make the crisis happen. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Cooper, we're just about at time, but I'd love to talk about where Anna is today. It sounds like the ghrelin is pretty stubborn, and I didn't realize that you say that ghrelin, that hunger hormone, is created not just in the stomach, but other parts of the body as well.
That's right. And Anna enjoyed one of the biggest reasons she did pursue the surgery was, yes, the medication cocktail was having very limited results, some results, but limited. But the other was she really missed her athletic life. She missed
Mhm.
being an athlete and engaging socially in the athletic groups and all of that. And every time she would try to do anything athletically, her weight would blow up. So we really felt like if we could get the ghrelin out of there, she could at least return to her active lifestyle. So
Right.
a lot of why the surgery was recommended was to enable her to go back to exercise as well without suffering
Mhm.
from this weight backlash. So the ghrelin, about 85% of it is produced in the lower curvature of the stomach. And so the vertical sleeve gastrectomy removes that lower curvature of the stomach, which removes 85% of the ghrelin producing cells. But so normally after the surgery, we have good success. We see ghrelin levels drop into low ranges and they stay there usually. But every once in a while, you'll see people who still have elevated ghrelin after the surgery, or their ghrelin levels increase even over years after the surgery, still remaining kind of low. But in Anna's case, as unlucky as she has been and how this ghrelin has been haunting her, the level ended up much higher than any I've ever seen after the surgery. We're still fighting it. And so it can be produced by other tissues, like other parts of the GI tract, the lungs, the pancreas, even the brain can produce ghrelin. So I wouldn't be surprised if yours is coming from your brain. But in any case, we're still trying to figure out what could the potential triggers be. And there are still places to look of how we could get it to reduce, actually through maybe some lifestyle strategies like focusing on sleep and other things and trying to get a clue as to what's going on. Stress, sleep, they affect ghrelin. So, but that's the situation. So we've made a lot of progress, and you can exercise. It doesn't freak your body out as much as it would before,
As it did before. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But we've still got a ways to go. And so we're still working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to go around the table and just kind of get a takeaway from everybody. Andrea, what do you want people at home to know, to take away from this episode?
I think just because you're athletic or you look really healthy or you don't look really healthy, it's once again, you never know what's going on inside. You really don't. I mean, people who look like they're fit, you don't know what's going on inside. You just don't know. Or if they don't look fit, you don't know what's going on inside. I mean, it's really, the body is a crazy, kooky, wild thing. You don't know.
Anna, what do you want people to know when it comes to your story and your life experience?
That people are probably more disciplined than they give themselves credit for, and that you can't go by what you see, and to demand answers from your doctors. Don't just let them give you a pat answer and send you off into the wild, with just trite pat answers. It's like if there's something wrong and it's wrong, then I would demand answers.
I guess my takeaway is that it just breaks my heart, Anna, to hear your story, just like it did when I heard Andrea's story, that it's borderline abuse that you've been dealt from the people who have dedicated their lives to serving us as physicians. And it's just infuriating when I hear that.
Yeah.
That there can be so much education and so much ignorance living between the two ears of some of these physicians. I'm just blown away. And that we just have to keep beating the drum that calories in, calories out is not an accurate equation. It depends, doesn't it, Dr. Cooper? It just depends on so many things. Dr. Cooper, what's your takeaway for all this?
I'm in alignment with you, Mark. I'd love to see the medical community step up a little bit more and actually listen to the patients when they're saying these things that may not make sense, but that just means we need to look further for the answers. It's not just taking that cop out of, well, what they're telling me doesn't fit my model, so they must be telling me something wrong. Instead, use it as a challenge to pique your curiosity and go look and understand more about how the metabolism works, because it is fascinating and it's a great field. And that's kind of how I got into it, is just I was listening to the patients and I was thinking, geez, this is really interesting. Let's see, how is this happening? Instead of not believing what they were saying. And so I wouldn't have learned as much as I have if I hadn't been that curious and hadn't listened. And so I think it opens the door to some great science and interesting areas. And that's what we really need, I think, for patients to really get the answers that they're looking for.
I agree.
Dr. Cooper was the first doctor who ever thought to answer the question of like, well, why does that keep happening? Why have you been on 38 diets or whatever? Like, what's going on inside of you? Instead of saying, well, you just are doing it wrong.
Right.
She was the first one who said there's something wrong inside of you.
And there's a huge gap. There's a huge gap in like the science versus what's in the curriculum in medical schools and what's in practice. And so hopefully that gap is closing in, but I don't see it really doing that too effectively, but hopefully it will. And I think by talking about this more, people not hiding in shame with their stories, but this is one reason why we're so grateful for you to come on, Anna, and tell your story, because I feel like so many people are going through things and they think it's only happening to them because no one's talking about it. So I think that's really what's going to move the needle more than anything.
I agree.
Anna, you've been such an inspiration, and gosh, you look so healthy now, and I'm just really inspired by your courage and just your fortitude to find the truth and to stick to it. And plus, the fact that you've done an Ironman. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
I mean, that's really, I had no idea how amazing that was.
Andrea, I think you and I should come up with an ironing man.
Ironing man.
Let's do 100 shirts without stopping.
I could probably do like 30.
You're going to need a lot of fuel for that.
I could do make 30. Sure you do a gel in there. Yeah.
Some gel pack. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Jello. Maybe.
Yeah. Jello.
I don't know.
Well, this has been super enlightening. I love spending time with all of you. And Anna, what an honor, treat to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. This has been another edition of Fat Science.
No diets, no agendas, just science that makes you feel better.
I'm Mark Wright. Thanks for listening to Fat Science with Dr. Emily Cooper, a Work P2P production. New episodes drop every Monday. If you've enjoyed the conversation, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. This production is for informational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional medical advice. Join us next week for another episode dedicated to the science of why we get fat. No diets, no agendas, just science that makes you feel better.